understand platinum and gold coming off in light of suddenly a panic around the Fed's decision being less than the market is expecting tonight, but euro dollar isn't moving. So have you got any light on this?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, that is an interesting sort of relationship. I think what you may see is the guys lighting up ahead of the announcement and what's sort of going to come out of that. I think it is sort of just managing risk a little bit around it, and maybe it's a question about I know on the metal side the guys have been heavily invested and sort of more just investment demand on specifically I think on platinum and gold to some extent. So I think the guys are just lighting up ahead of the announcement.
And just looking at, I mean, those are quite dramatic moves, Chris. Yeah. If you see a move above $25 and it looks as though we could go further to the downside, it shows the risk that these metals are exposed to on the investment side. That they're absolutely not supported. This is not just physical demand that we're holding.
Oh yeah, this is speculative demand. As Kobus says, these are the guys taking positions. They're we're all going to be glued to our sets this evening at 8:30 to see what actually eventuates. But yeah, it's speculation. Pure.
Let's talk about Royal Bafokeng, that listing happening on the 8th of November, and it's the second biggest listing that will take place in South Africa this year. I think it's the sixth biggest listing globally in the mining environment. And the price on the table, 60 Rand 50, pretty much in the middle of their range between 56 and 65. Are you happy with that price?
Yeah, very much so. I think, purely from a fundamental basis, you're sort of looking at a value, I think, between about 58 and 62, sort of prior to this. And then obviously you got the whole Impala bid option over that, I think indicative levels where they said they were prepared to come in is sort of 20 to 40% ahead of I think where these guys has done the listing.
So it gave a big kicker, that Impala Platinum bid for
absolutely, I think it just puts a very nice sweetener on the package, and I think the response was very good. I think the book was 4 times subscribed. Very good international interest as well, especially coming through yesterday afternoon, I believe. And I think the Oaks are taking this one serious.
60 Rand 50. Chris, would you be queuing up for this one?
No, look, we like it. We like the intrinsics. We like platinum, but I'd like this to settle down a bit so we can actually get a view as to what the basic fundamentals of this company really are. We already hold Impala. That's our preferred one, but it's nice to have a new counter on, and let's see what happens.
And a mid-tier platinum producer. Can we get excited about the story?
No, absolutely. It's the 4th biggest on a 4E reserve basis, just after Amplats, Impala, and Lonmin.
So this is not something to be taken lightly.
No,
this is a game changer.
This is a proper tier 2 sort of platinum company, and I think it's got the goods. It's got the grades. It's shallow. It's got good Merensky percentage in it. Easier to process. There is risk in it, obviously from a mechanized perspective on the new Styldrift mine. It always remains there is geological issues in that mine, but the asset itself has been very well researched and drilled, and the Oaks are fairly confident they can handle.
What about the free float? Book build 4 times oversubscribed. I can't imagine there's an enormous free float on this one.
Yeah, look, 30%. It's not a lot, but I think they try to accommodate the private investor as well. As I said, there's a good balance, I think, between international and local investors. And, it is a concern. I think for the bigger funds, it just wasn't in play. But I think there will definitely be enough guys putting an eye on this one, yeah.
Well, while we've got a mining analyst in studio, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't get your view on a couple of the other mining stocks that you think are offering value out there. The debate has been raging for some time now. BHP Billiton, Anglo American, they haven't come to the party as we've seen in terms of industrials and financials. And if you're looking for that kicker in the local market, it could be squarely in those diversified miners. Would you agree with that view?
I would. I think, especially we've had a tough time the last month or so due to political and regulatory issues around those companies. And I think if you put them on matrices and compare them to other of the commodity countries, then they look fairly cheap. I think especially, some of the companies like a Billiton, like a Kumba, which are fairly exposed to iron ore. We've seen some nice upward price movements, or I think consensus views of late on the metal, and I think that's always been the risk on those. Whether for how long will those prices sort of hold and allow these companies to make almost these super profits.
What about African Rainbow Minerals? Again today at the top of the top 40, we're up 4%.
10%
and we've seen this
2 days.
What is going on? Have we missed some news there?
Yeah, maybe someone is looking at it. No, look, I mean, it's extraordinary. Look, it has been the underperformer.
And everybody's saying this is the mini BHP Billiton X oil.
Absolutely. It's got a very well diversified portfolio. It's not as exposed anymore to manganese as it were to. It's iron ore. It's got some platinum in it. So I think it's got a nice portfolio. It has underperformed, but it is very sensitive to rand strength and currency movements. It's probably one of the most sensitive or geared stocks to currency movements. So if you are sitting on a stronger rand, this is probably not the preferred pick.
Which is very interesting because we've got the rand 691 today.
Absolutely,
it's tracking stronger. It's down below 7. You were insinuating possibly that corporate activity, is that what I was thinking?
Look, I mean, you never know.
Could it be in play?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of guys looking at assets in Africa now. We've seen it, and so you can never rule that out.
What about below 200 rand on African Rainbow Minerals? Would you pick it up?
We haven't looked at this one closely enough. It's not that well researched in our opinion. But as you rightly say, there could be corporate action there. I mean, they've got the joint venture with Vale, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the Brazilians are eyeing up something here.
The upside on the stock, as you say, it has been an underperformer. Below 200 rand, do you think there's still significant upside?
No, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I said, it would, earnings-wise and on a multiple basis or whatever basis you want to look at it and try and value it in terms of its upside, I think it is sensitive, as I mentioned, to the rand. So there could be some distortion. But in general, as I said, look at the asset as a whole, it still offers good value. It's definitely one of our picks.
Kobus, thank you very much for your time. Kobus, Nell, mining analyst at Stanlib. Chris, as we move closer and closer to that Fed decision, the sell-off that we're seeing in commodities right now, equities, what do you expect to happen on the local market tomorrow? As you said, we're all going to be glued to our TV sets at 8:30 this evening.
I'm going to sound like an economist on the one hand. It all depends what we get. I have this funny feeling we're actually going to get a bigger injection.
Do you really think a bigger injection than the market's anticipating?
Purely because I just don't see the movement in this US economy. It is terribly, terribly stubborn. And people like Paul Krugman have said that we should have had a far, far bigger QE1, as I suppose we look at it now with hindsight. But my problem philosophically is that I don't think it's going to do the trick, almost whatever they do.
Are you a double dipper then? I mean, is that how severe it is in your opinion?
I don't see double dip, but I just see a terrible resemblance to the 1970s, where you had stagflation. You had relatively stagnant developed economies. We didn't have
so anemic growth. You're going with Mohammed Al-Arian of PIMCO, who says this is the new normal, anemic growth in the developed world, and we're going to see the dominance of emerging markets coming to fruition.
I couldn't put it better myself. Yeah.
Well, he has a way with words, doesn't he? Mohammed Al-Arian, the CEO of PIMCO. Very quickly, RBPlat today, 37 rand. This one is another one I've been following of late. There is that rumor doing the rounds that RBPlat is in play and that banking asset could be up for grabs. Could be a bit of unbundling there as well.
Yeah, I mean, ever since we had the HSBC Nedbank thing, yeah, it's a possibility. But never mind that. If you look at its core holding, First Rand, I mean, that is starting to look very, very good indeed. Amongst all the banking stocks, it seems to have probably the best turnaround potential of any of them. Well,
RBPlat is now trading at a premium to First Rand, and usually you have it the other way around. So that's why this potential corporate activity in RBPlat.
Don't forget, they've also got the holding in Discovery. So,
unbundling further on
it's a nice mix there.